Imagine standing on your front porch, the afternoon sun beating down, your heart racing as you tear open an envelope that has been slipped into your mailbox. At first, you think it's another routine notice, maybe even a coupon flyer. But then your eyes fall on the bold red letters stamped across the top. Violation, HOA fine. Your breath catches in your throat. You read again and again, praying you're mistaken, but the words refuse to change. A fine, $3,500, for nothing more than your yard, for the hedges that climbed to 8 feet tall while you worked long shifts to feed your child. In that moment, the world feels like it's collapsing. You want to scream, you want to cry, you want to ask why life can be so cruel, but instead, you stand frozen, the paper trembling in your hands. This is exactly what happened to Emily, a single mother whose life was already a battlefield long before the HOA stepped in with their merciless notice. Emily lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood, the kind of place where lawns were manicured like magazine covers and the HOA patrolled with clipboards as though they were military commanders. On the outside, it looked peaceful, safe, and picture perfect. But behind closed doors, Emily's world was far from perfect. Since her divorce, she had been raising her daughter Lily on her own. She juggled 2 jobs, day shifts at a local diner and evening shifts at a grocery store, just to make sure Lily had food on the table, clothes for school, and a roof over her head. Every day was a marathon, and every night ended in exhaustion. By the time she got home, trimming the yard was the last thing on her mind. Over the summer, the hedges grew wild. 1 week of neglect became 2, then 3. Soon, the greenery towered over her small yard, giving the house a neglected appearance. But Emily didn't see it that way. To her, the yard was not a priority. What mattered was that Lily was safe, loved, and never felt the absence of her father. But the HOA saw it differently. To them, it was an offense, a violation of their pristine image, and they made sure Emily paid the price. The letter was cold, devoid of compassion. Failure to maintain property according to HOA standards has resulted in a fine of $3,500. Immediate action required. Emily's knees weakened. $3,500? That was more than her monthly rent, more than what she had managed to save in years. It felt impossible, like a cruel joke. She sat on the porch steps, clutching the letter, her vision blurring with tears. Lily came outside clutching her teddy bear. "Mommy, are you okay?" Emily quickly wiped her eyes and forced a smile. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just some papers." But inside she felt anything but fine. Days passed, and the whispers started. Neighbors walking their dogs slowed down to glance at her yard. Cars driving by lingered just a little longer. Some shook their heads disapprovingly, others simply looked away. No one asked if she needed help. No one offered a hand. The isolation was suffocating. One evening, as Emily sat at the kitchen table staring at the fine notice again, her phone buzzed with yet another overdue bill reminder. The weight on her chest grew heavier. "I can't do this," she whispered to herself. But she didn't realize someone else had noticed. Me. I had been living a few houses down for years, quietly observing the neighborhood's perfect image. I had seen Emily before, always in a rush, always carrying the weight of the world. I noticed how she came home late at night, groceries in hand, her daughter by her side. I noticed the tired look in her eyes, the way she never stopped moving, never stopped trying. And I noticed the yard too. But unlike the HOA, I didn't see neglect. I saw struggle. I saw someone doing her best. So when I heard about the fine, my blood boiled. How could the HOA demand thousands of dollars from a single mom who was clearly doing everything she could to survive? How could an entire neighborhood watch her suffer in silence and not lift a finger? That's when I made up my mind. I wasn't going to be like the others. The next Saturday, I grabbed my gloves, hedge clippers, and a ladder. I walked over to Emily's house. She was on the porch, her eyes widening when she saw me. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice filled with confusion and embarrassment. "Helping," I said simply. She shook her head quickly. "No, I can't let you do that. I can't pay you. I can't." I interrupted gently. "This isn't about money. It's about being neighbors. Let me help." For a moment, she hesitated. Her pride battled with her desperation. But then, her shoulders slumped and she whispered, "Okay." We got to work. The hedges were wild, branches thick and stubborn. The sun blazed overhead, sweat dripping down our faces. Lily sat on the porch steps, cheering us on, her laughter echoing like music through the yard. At first, Emily worked cautiously beside me, unsure if she deserved the help. But as the hours passed, something changed. She began to talk. She told me about her struggles, about raising Lily alone, about working 2 jobs just to scrape by. She confessed how invisible she often felt, how painful it was to live in a neighborhood that judged instead of cared. With every branch we cut, her spirit seemed to lighten. For the first time in weeks, she laughed, a genuine, unguarded laugh. By evening, the yard looked transformed. The once overgrown jungle now stood neat and orderly, perfectly within HOA standards. Emily looked at it with tears in her eyes. "I can't believe it," she whispered. But the real test came when the HOA inspector arrived a few days later. He strutted up the driveway, clipboard in hand, ready to deliver another blow. But when he saw the yard, his expression faltered. There was nothing to criticize, nothing to write down. For the first time, Emily held the power. She stood tall, her chin lifted, her voice steady as she said, "Is there a problem?" The inspector shifted uncomfortably. "No, no problem." And just like that, the fine lost its power. But the story didn't end there. The HOA still demanded payment, still tried to hold Emily accountable for the past violation. $3,500 hung over her like a storm cloud. Emily didn't know what to do, but something unexpected happened. Word spread. Neighbors who had once stayed silent began to whisper about the injustice. Some felt ashamed for not helping sooner. Others realized they too lived under the HOA's harsh rules. Slowly, support grew. One neighbor offered to donate. Another brought over food. A group started a petition demanding the fine be dropped. For the first time, Emily wasn't alone. And when the HOA board saw the growing wave of support, they backed down. They called it a misunderstanding and waived the fine entirely. But we knew the truth. They had been forced to see Emily not as a violation, but as a person. The transformation was remarkable. Emily stood taller, her confidence renewed. Lily beamed with pride, telling everyone, "My mom's the strongest person I know." And the neighborhood? It changed too. People began talking to one another, checking in, offering help. That one act of kindness had sparked a ripple effect. Emily once said to me, "You didn't just help me with my yard. You reminded me that I wasn't invisible." And those words stayed with me. Because sometimes it's not about grand gestures or perfect lawns, it's about seeing people, really seeing them, and choosing compassion over judgment. So let me ask you, if you saw someone struggling, would you turn away or would you step in? Because kindness, no matter how small, can change a life. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs a reminder about compassion, and subscribe for more stories that prove one thing: humanity always wins.